Well, okay, we're a minute past 7, so I think we're going to still go ahead and get started. I'm sure there'll be people coming into the meeting. So welcome everybody to the September Queen Anne Community Council meeting after our August break, which was really nice to have. So we have several guest speakers this evening, and so we're going to get started with those right away. And then we have 2 items that we need to have a board vote on a little bit later in the program. So we have a really full agenda. So I'm going to move fairly quickly through things, and I appreciate everybody's joining us this evening. So we're going to start the evening with Amy Smith, who is the Deputy Director of Community Safety and Communications Center. And Amy's going to talk about a new program that is being launched in the city of Seattle. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it right over to Amy. Amy, take it away.
Yeah,
And do
thank
you
you.
have slides that you need to show?
Yeah, yep, I will. I will do that now. Tell
Okay.
me if you see that. Is it
Yes.
the full screen? All
Yes.
right, off we go. Yeah, hello everyone. So I am Amy Smith. I joined the city in February. So I'm from Seattle. I'm from Madrona originally, and I've been in the Midwest for about 6 years and came back last year. I'm career nonprofit. I like to tell people that so they know that the adventures in this part of public service are new to me. My role as deputy director is half in support of 911 administration. A lot of transformation happening right now with AI coming online and some different protocols and things like that. And then the other thing that I'm tasked to do is to stand up what is termed the dual dispatch pilot program. And this is the alternative response to 911 calls. So I'm going to share a few hasty updates about that, and then really want to hold a few minutes for questions if you have them. The other thing I should say is that I actually just closed on a new home in Queen Anne last week. So I have become friends with Paula, but I'm happy to be here with you for personal reasons as well, to meet some new people. So I presented earlier today. I'm actually getting very tired of the sound of my own voice. This is an interdepartmental meeting, and I launched with these few little Deming quotes because I am an academic, a researcher, and I really believe in iterative, continuous improvement. And so I just want to give everyone here license and permission to correct and inform and criticize and just provide as much feedback as you can, as this program grows in the city. The way that I conceptualize this pilot, again, the basic idea is that we need to be able to send someone other than police and fire to 911 calls. So I am right in the heart of the data here and can see that about half the calls really don't require either response, and generally neither is perhaps as effective as if you had mental or behavioral health response. And so when I joined the city, I went to work sort of assessing the landscape, trying to figure out what was going on right now in crisis response. Again, my background is human services, so I was aware of some of the nonprofit resources. And what I realized right away is that we've had really good co-response both in fire and in police for a long time. And I went on a lot of ride-alongs the first couple of weeks and have made a lot of strong relationships in both departments. And I started to talk with my hands a lot and conceptualize this work on this acuity spectrum. And then I created this actually when I presented to City Council this summer, that this is how I was thinking about it. So co-response on the one side with police is when there's a nexus of safety concern, threat to public safety or threat to self. And then on the other side is when there's a nexus of a medical emergency that really requires medical response and mental health. And then, like I said before, at least half of the calls are low acuity. They're perhaps not even what we would term emergency, but they do need some kind of response. We are called CSCC, but actually the mayor has already announced several times this year it's going to be the CARE department. And that stands for Community Assisted Response and Engagement. And so I think that is being formalized in the next weeks, I think. So when you hear me say that, that's what I'm talking about. And again, a really important design element is that this group in the middle is all these interventions are anchored in consent. That's really important to distinguish us from police, that if we need enforcement, if you need to remand someone to treatment or force somebody to move, that is not going to be the work of this team. If we went down that path, you would run the risk really just of duplicating police in a way of making another enforcement team, and that is not what we're doing. So this is just a snapshot of what the pilot design looks like. We will have 3 teams of 2 mental health professionals. I actually just hired the last team member today. I can't believe it because I just got the jobs created a month ago, and I'm very pleased. We've got a very strong cohort. I think there's a supervisor as well. So 6 of 7 are master's level social workers and have different clinical designations. Initially, we are being dispatched with police. So police will go out in a car, mental health professionals go out in another car. And this is an important design element of the pilot. I think it's a better academic approach to be able to learn from police and sort of to have their blessing, right? That the scene is secure and that we can continue with clinical intervention or coordination of resources. In co-response right now, when I go on these ride-alongs, what often happens is that, an officer is kind of stuck while a clinician is having a conversation for 45 minutes. And so at a minimum, this will allow police to get back to higher acuity calls that they need to go to. This is kind of jargony because again, I use internally often, but it is priority 3 and 4. The terms are person down, which is exactly what it sounds like. Often it's somebody has fallen asleep in front of a business doorway or we can't tell if they're okay or not. And then welfare check is another one. Some of that is care coordination and sort of navigation when we know that something has happened to a person to be able to follow up. The activation plan pilot area is just south of Denny. Again, this is like a block south of where I moved. So I thought, well, that's kind of funny. I probably need to expand north a little bit, but that's where we're going to start. And we'll run down to Soto. And we're going to start 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. And this correlates with the crisis data. I'm right into the SBD data hub. And so that's what's informing that decision. And then, adjacent to this work, I'm trying to just standardize language to really stitch together, a super team across fire and police, and then also with DESC and other providers. We're going to have a shared records management, which is a simple innovation, but I think it's going to make a really meaningful difference because we've got high utilizers of the systems, basically, where you've got multiple teams interacting with the same, 70 or 80 people a lot of the time. The responders are going to show up in what we say soft uniforms, right? So it'll be, kind of like the khaki pants and long sleeve shirts. The mayor's office is designing a really nice brand mark and logo. And again, we're calling them community responders. The job type is community crisis responder, but I'm not saying that too often because it sounds like BCR. And then again, this is a little bit about the team. UW has designed the training for us, 4 weeks of training, and it's based on the CRIT. Again, this is a police training historically, and CROA is the co-response. It's sort of like a community of practice that was developed out of House Bill 5644. And let me see, yeah, protocol coordination. I said that, and then this is what's next. So we're starting to do field testing. We are going to be in the field taking the first calls the week of October 17th. And I'm spending a lot of time now in meetings like this, making sure that people are aware that this is coming online, making sure that people know that we want feedback and response. I also would appreciate it as council candidates are reaching out to me often and council members to be well informed. It is my hope that there will be broader appetite for this intervention so that we can go citywide. I would hope in the first year, by the end of the first year. And then also working on a public facing dashboard, which will be really important. So with that, I will stop sharing. I talk really fast. Paula, was I under 10 minutes? Did I do it?
No, that's great because I suspect there are probably a lot of questions.
Yes, on
Yeah,
account
if
of the
anybody
fast
has a
talking.
question, please go ahead and raise your hand. Amy, I think you will probably see those. Anyone at all? Maybe you covered everything thoroughly.
I know, man. That would be good if I got out ahead of the questions, but yeah.
My first question, of course, to Amy when we first met to talk about this was, will this response be available in Queen Anne? Because
Yeah.
we don't have any kind of outreach response in Queen Anne because we don't have a BIA or any organization through which those services can be provided.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not right now, but we've also talked about the importance of supporting the program so that and supporting it with the city council, with the mayor's office,
Hmm.
anybody you talk to, so that, to Amy's point, it can be taken citywide. And of course, we're encouraging it to come first to Queen Anne because it's just right next door.
That's
Um,
right.
there is a question in the chat. So how will you measure the success of this program? Thanks, Stephen, for that question.
Yeah, that's a really smart question. It's interesting. There's about 75 pilots in the country. There's a few that I'm watching really closely because I like the design. If you go to Durham Hart and look at their dashboard and what they're measuring, we will likely follow suit. The challenge initially is that one of the most meaningful metrics is response time. And so while I am going to the scene with police, I'm probably not going to be able to respond much faster. But I anticipate that as we get, a few weeks or months into it, that's going to be really critically important, that response time. One of the things I think about a lot are, again, the calls where we know there's a mental health aspect, whether or not these people are being referred to services, and whether or not we can follow up in the first 72 hours. It's been suggested to me that over time, this is more an outcome than an output, but it will be interesting to see if rates of incarceration for folks who have a mental health diagnosis that certainly precipitated whatever was criminal, whether or not those rates go down would be very meaningful indicator of success. So I will say, as a person, I want, qualitative data. I hope that a year from now, the community has a perception that we're innovating in a positive direction, that things seem to be getting better. It's really important to me that the other first responder teams feel like this is useful. That's very, very important. Um, and the other part of my day is advocating for better places to take people. I know we need sobering centers. We need more beds, but I see Sean Blackwell's in this meeting. We've talked about we need places for people to go during the day, because even if there's overnight shelter, we often don't have solutions during the day. So I definitely want to be part of efforts to advance those initiatives. And I really want a coordinated effort with folks working in this space, that we're all saying similar things to the community so that there's a sense that things can get better. Good question.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I guess as a follow-on to that question that I have is, is there a plan that after a certain initial period of time, will your team, I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
non-police responders, do you see them perhaps responding in some situations where there isn't concern about, the responder safety and that sort of thing separately?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty careful not to cast a vision, because I'm trying to hold this sort of academic
Sure.
boundary to say I want the data to imply that we are headed in the right direction. But what I can imagine, just as a person and a community member, is that we will head down the path that Albuquerque has gone. I mean, they have 150 of these first responders now who truly are working in tandem with both police and fire. It's saving the city a ton of money, and actually they're seeing crime reduction. So that it's interesting, because you see that corollary. Denver saw it initially as well, and we can't say exactly why, because it's not intended to be a crime prevention tool necessarily, but it could just be simply that we have more public safety assets and resources, and so everybody can sort of do what they do best, do a little bit more of that. So I see there's another question
Yeah,
here.
Sharon has her
Yeah.
hand up. So Sharon, go ahead,
Oh,
and then we
yeah,
have a question in chat.
yeah.
Yeah, I cleaned a bus stop and a half a block yesterday at 12th and Jackson, and there were people actively using fentanyl there.
Mm,
I guess
yeah,
that's the one with the tinfoil,
yeah,
and some really, really sad looking people and
yeah.
barely functional people. So will your team address that, or does somebody have to actively be in crisis, like down or passed
Yeah.
out or whatever, before that person gets attention?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And again, implies some of the policy change that we need to see on the book, so we know how best to respond to public use and things like that. What I anticipate this team will do, again, we're not going to be in enforcement, right? But what happens in other places, especially Albuquerque, is people will go and intervene. There's an invitation to do something different, to go somewhere else, or again, to uphold whatever policy is on the books. And then sometimes a prompt that like, listen, the next call it is going to be police. And so we can do this way, or we can do it this way. But yeah, we're not going to do, this team is not going to do enforcement. However, we're going to work really closely with police co-response, right, when that's appropriate. So I hear concerns like what you expressed all the time. And I am very well aware that we have 704 fentanyl deaths already this year. And by now that number is probably higher because that's 2 days old. So I know this is really epidemic. And I think this is a very compassionate city. And we're also concerned about that many deaths, that we need to do something different. So I will hopefully circle back with a more articulate plan in a couple months when you ask the same question.
Thank you. There are a couple more questions in chat. So
Sure.
Kathy was asking, who decides if there's a need for more intervention, i.e.
Yeah.
voluntary commitment?
Yeah, this is one of the most complex dialogues that's going on right now. Washington State has really specific definitions and qualifications for involuntary treatment. You heard me reference the DCR, that's a designated crisis responder. King County has a very, very specific and narrow definition about who can remand people into treatment. And I can tell you, in social work and clinical psychology, like there's just a lot of debate about this. I think many of us are very uncomfortable with involuntary treatment because we're trained that self-determination is so powerful and so important. And then also everybody concedes that, you know, if you're in acute crisis or have severe substance use disorder, you don't really have the ability, as we would define it, to self-determine in that moment. Right now, the decision, the recommendation can be made, but the decision still has to be made by, at the county level. This is Frank Qacc's team. So he has the DCRs basically who go in with police if that decision is going to be made. So other teams can make recommendations, but that is still the professional who decides.
Okay. And then another comment and a question. Camps are extremely cruel to those who live nearby, garbage, crime, drugs, etc. Are we working to implement a method to protect communities?
Yeah, I understand this concern as well. And it's another very interesting conversation that I'm a part of right now. This mayor's office is really working to sort of audit these interventions and the different, there's been so many kinds of teams I've learned, you know, HOPE teams and unified care teams. And again, we've got Third Avenue Project, I think a lot of, there's all these different teams that are not very well coordinated that are sitting in different departments. I can tell you that this administration is advocating very humane policy. Otherwise, I would not be in support of it. That we need compassionate response, but there also needs to be a really clear process and blueprint for how we respond. You know, I know that we're not doing sweeps. That is not a thing that is happening. But we want encampments to be sanctioned and designated and safe, in part to protect. In particular, I worry a lot about women who are unsheltered because I understand statistically what can happen. So this is something I'm losing sleep about, and I will keep reporting as we develop. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm afraid, unless there's one other quick question, we're going to have to leave it there for this evening, but we'll definitely have Amy back because we want to hear about the progress of the program and how it's developing, and also when it may be coming to our neighborhood. So
thank you.
We'll keep pushing for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy, so much. And thanks for your time this evening. Great. Okay. So next up, we have Michael Eggers, and Michael is with the Seattle Sharps Collection Program. So Michael, are you there?
Yeah, Paul, I can try and share my screen. And so let me see if I can do that myself.
Yeah.
Put on there we go.
That'd be great because you'll probably do it much more smoothly than I.
Yeah, let's hope so. Come on. That's good. Okay.
We see it, so.
Okay, here we go.
Yep.
All right, so I hope I don't give everybody whiplash. I'll try and get through these fast. I know this is a packed meeting. So my name is Michael Eggers. I'm with the City of Seattle, Seattle Public Utilities Clean City Division. And so I manage the Sharps program, and I'm an illegal dumping inspector as well. And so these are the other programs that the Clean City Division deals with. So the Sharps collection program was designed so that we could get those needles off the streets. Like when you're walking your dog, it's terrible to come across a needle. If you're with your children, you're in a park or a playground, you see a needle, it's horrifying, it's horrible, and we got to get those needles out of there. So a lot of times people think that needles just come from homeless, and they come from a lot of different sources. So yes, intravenous drug users, that comes from a lot. Also, anyone with diabetes would know they have to deal with needles and need a place to put those. Your pets have medication that sometimes require needles, and people with allergies, those EpiPens, they look like big old crayon sticks, but there's needles inside there, and they have to be disposed of safely. And needles are not allowed in the trash or the recycling. We don't want our the trash handlers, when they're picking up the carts and dumpsters, to have needles falling on them. And if you've ever been to a recycling plant, the first step when they drop off a load of recycling and it goes on the conveyor belt, there's a line of about 50 people that are hand sorting. They're pulling out plastic bags and anything that get caught in the machinery, and we don't want those folks to get poked by a needle either. So this program was designed to get needles off the public right of way and then have places to put them if you were to come across them. So if you come across a needle in the park or on the street or somewhere in the public right of way, we have 3 options for you to report that. So there's our website, seattle.gov/utilities/sharps, or you can use our hotline, 206-684-7587. That's open 24 hours a day. It's just basically a message machine to ask you a few questions, and then we check that daily. And then the best option is the Find It, Fix It app. It's free. You can get it at the App Store if you guys know your apps. It's great because it's not just for needles. If there's a street light out, if there's a pothole, if there's a drain that's not draining in the street, and a whole list of other items you can use that for, and you don't have to sit on hold, and it works out really well. And we'll go over how to use that so it's a little more familiar to you. Of all the things on the Find It, Fix It app, the one thing that gets handled within 24 hours is needle inspections. So if you put that needle request in, it'll come to me in about 15 minutes, and then we respond to that within 24 hours a week, or within 24 hours, and then that's available 7 days a week, which means I have the privilege of working on Saturdays, and then my partner helps me on Sunday. So we have 7 days a week, full coverage for you. So this is kind of a tutorial how to go over the Find It, Fix It app so that you know how to deal with it. So once you download it for free, that has the City of Seattle logo on it. You then click on New Report. Then you choose what type of category it is. If it's a pothole, in this case, it'd be illegal dumping / needles. Then you'd describe this situation, hey, it's on the corner next to the school. And you also put a picture with it, which is great. Your phone has the camera. I highly recommend adding a photo. You don't have to, but I highly recommend it. Then you want to make sure to select the category of needles so that you know that it gets handled within 24 hours. The part about adding a photo is worth 1,000 words. The photo on the left is one that I get quite often, which is really hard if anyone can tell me where that needle is located, I'd love to know, because it's an extreme close-up. I see needles every day. I know what a needle looks like. What I'm looking for is a picture on the right that kind of gives me perspective, so I can stand where you're standing and see there's a building there and a street light here, and it helps me know if the needle's been picked up or not. Because a lot of times if this needle's in front of a business, it might have already gotten picked up, and then I can know that it's already been taken care of. Otherwise, if you were to just give me, say, an intersection, that means I have to go up 2 sidewalks to the north, 2 sidewalks to the east, south, and west, and it takes a lot of time, and so the photos just really help me out. So I appreciate adding those. Another great feature about the Find It, Fix It app is it geolocates where you are standing, so you don't have to find an address or find a street sign or know where you are exactly. The little blue dot was where I was standing, so it found me and inputted the address. So that was great. And like I said, needles is part of the illegal dumping program, so you have to make sure that you select needles as the category, Because if you just put it, hey, this needle is garbage, then it gets sent to a dispatcher, and then that dispatcher has to dispatch it out. And if it's on Saturday or Sunday, they don't work on the weekends, so I don't see it. Otherwise, if you click on needles, then I will see it in about 15 minutes. You can choose to report it anonymously if you'd like, or which I highly recommend is that you add your email address there, and it will give you updates on what's happened with your complaint. So it'll say, hey, it just got picked up, or this pothole just got filled. And so it lets you know what's going on with the complaint. And then there's a summary of what the complaint was. So there are 2 exemptions when I don't come and pick up needles. One is if they're in encampments. If they're in an encampment, that means it's part of their property and we can't remove items. What I do is I send these service requests to the Unified Care Team, which was talked about earlier, and they go out and talk to these folks and offer them services and try to get them housing or get them out of that location. Once the residents have been removed, then we can clean out all the garbage and needles and trash, and that's when we can do that. The other exemption is if it's on private property. So if somebody drops a needle over your fence, I don't climb your fence and go into your backyard and pick them out of your sandbox. So what we'll do is we'll go over how to pick up a needle if you find it on your own private property. These are some of the numbers that we deal with the service requests that come in through the Find It, Fix It or the hotline. As you can see, from 2019 to 2021, the blue there, needles were going up every year. Last year, they took a big dip from 32,000 down to 15,000. So we'll kind of go over some of the reasons why we might think this is happening. And then we get to those, we pick up those needles deal with them within 24 hours, 98 to 99% of the time. There's always holidays and vacations and whatnot. We try to get there as fast as we can, and we do a pretty good job of it. So this is some statistics that show you what's going on with the local drug trends that might speak to why we've seen a drop recently. So as you can see, on the right, the orange bar that's really high there is for heroin, which used to be the king of drugs. But in the past few years, you can see it kind of tails off. But then if you look on the right in green, there's a rocket ship going up. And then if you look at the graph on the left, there's a purple rocket ship going straight up. And that is fentanyl, which we were just speaking about. And fentanyl does not require a needle. So we've seen a different use in drug trends, which might be some explanation, but we also have, so that's the negative side, but there's also a positive side that might explain to why we're seeing less needles on the street. And we'll talk about that coming up. So what we have is the Sharps collection boxes. And we hope this is where all the needles are going, because this is where they're supposed to go. So the map on the right, in the red, it shows you the hot spots where we get the most calls from. So the downtown core is in red, a lot of calls in there. Up north in Ballard, that area, we got a lot of calls there. So on the left, you can see all the little pinpoints are needle collection boxes that you can take and drop off needles. So we've tried to match them, make sure they're spread out geographically all through this whole city, and then also mostly where we have gotten the most calls from. And so they're located in parks and on sidewalks, and both the north and south transfer station have places where you can drop off needles as well. This is kind of what they look like. They kind of look like the old post office boxes. They're big metal, but they're black. You just pop open the door, throw in individual needles, or you can throw in little boxes of needles there. So these are the styles that we have. Older style on the left, and then we have these single that only carry a single needle in the middle. One's at Ballard Commons Park, and others at Denny Park. And then this is the newer style that tends to not jam up on us quite as often. So that's good. And so I was talking about the positives of having these needle boxes, and that maybe this is why we're seeing less on the streets. Every year, those needles have gone up. We've collected more and more every year. These are just numbers from the past few years. So last year, we picked up over 456,000 needles in 1 year. And from those boxes, I get about 10,000 needles in all those 23 sites every week. They get picked up every week, and we get the counts for that week, and those counts go to the mayor. And then, so over the history of this program, we've picked up over 1.7 million needles. So those are off the street, which we feel really great about. And we'll go over quickly, how would you pick up a needle if you found it in your backyard? So what we recommend is having gloves, a container that could be a regular sharps container, or it could just be a hard plastic container like a 2-liter bottle or a Gatorade bottle, or just something that you can briefly hold that thing before you take it to one of the collection sites. And then the most important thing is having kitchen tongs or a litter stick that picks it up, or a shovel, just something that gives you the distance to get you away from harm's way from that needle end. So we want you to use gloves, but they're not for picking up with your hands. We want your hands nowhere near the needles. We just want to keep you safe from blood-borne pathogens. You never know what could be on those needles. The best place to pick up the needle is not at the end. If it's on the needle side, it can break off. There could be a cap there. The cap can fall off. If you do it on the other side, there's the plunger, and that can pull out. So if you ever see the orange caps around, just be aware, because unfortunately, those are the most visible thing. They're also the first thing to go. And then once the orange is gone and the white plunger is gone, that needle becomes clear. And so if it's on concrete, it becomes gray. If it's on grass, it becomes green. So they're really dangerous. So if you just happen to see a cap, doesn't mean you're out of the woods. Just, keep your eyes about you. And so when you do pick up the needles, you want to pick it up from the very middle, the barrel section. You want to put that container as close to where you're picking it up so that you're not carrying it all over the place. You just want to pick it up and get it in that box as fast as possible. You also want to make sure that you put the needle end down first. Every time, needle end down first, because the closest time your hands are going to ever get to that needle is when you screw on that lid or you shut that lid, and you want those needles at the very bottom, not sticking up where your hand's going to be when you close that lid. So that's very important. So please remember that when you secure the thing, to have the needles down. And then you can clean up your tools with a bleach solution. You can throw away the gloves if you're not going to use them, and wash your hands. And those are the basics. There's lots of videos here at this website. If you've forgotten what I've said and want to see somebody actual pick it up, we've done video demonstrations. So if you go to seattle.gov/utilities/sharps, there's an interactive map there, shows you where all those boxes that I talked about. The closest one to Queen Anne is at the lower Kinnear Park by the tennis court. So that's off West Roy Street, which is a dead end. You just walk on that trail, and it's right there, like 100 yards in. And then also, if you head north, there's several in Ballard, Fremont Canal Park, also one just off Leary and 9th, and the North Transfer Station is there as well. So those would be your closest options.
Thank you. If you'll stop sharing your screen, then we can see if anybody has questions. And I see Sharon does. There are a couple of quick questions, I think, in chat. Are these needles all bought by addicts, or are they provided to them? And the other question is, who collects the needles deposited in the small collection boxes in public bathrooms? So maybe you can speak to those, and then Sharon, we'll get to your question.
Yeah. So the first question was, who hands out the needles? So where
do they come from? Which is probably
where they come from. So so there are several nonprofits that do the needle sharing program, which is supposed to promote better health, so that the needles they aren't sharing needles, and there's outbreaks of different HIV and whatnot. So there are many nonprofits that do that. The city of Seattle itself does not hand out needles. We do not disperse medication. So we don't do that, but there are private entities that do, or you can, buy needles at any Rite Aid or drugstore. And then the next question was who
collects them from the small collection boxes in public bathrooms?
Yes. So it depends on where it's located. So hospitals have them. So then that hospital would deal with them. The 23 sites that we deal with are not inside bathrooms because we've found that they have the most vandalism when it's in a private bathroom. So all our boxes are outside of some of the parks restrooms. Parks was thinking of putting some inside the restroom, so we haven't, my program hasn't dealt with that yet, but there's a lot of private companies that have, like sometimes Safeway has it in their bathroom. They all handle, if it's in a private institution, they handle them themselves. The city just handles the 23 sites that I do, and we have a vendor collect those every week and then count them, and then I get that data and then it's given to the mayor.
Thank you. Sharon, you have a question? You're on mute, Sharon.
Sorry, trying to unmute in the
Okay.
wrong spot. So my Sharps container has been very heavily used since someone came to our council a few years ago and made a presentation similar to yours and distributed them. And I'm wondering if the city, I could use a new one. I was wondering, first of all, if you still give them away or where you do get the Sharps containers. And then I wanted to say that all of the customer service centers are giving out the grabbers now. If you go to the Ballard Library, to that customer service center that adjoins it, you can get grabbers. I've distributed several of them, and I use them because I pick up trash every day around the city. I've gone through a lot of them. But and then I want to go back to my question, but I want to say one more thing, because I use the disposal box on Aurora around 89th. I can't remember the name.
Yes,
But
89th and
a
Aurora.
number of times that I've been there, it's locked. And you said something about jamming. So I don't know if it's jammed or locked, but it's so annoying when I go and I have a container full of needles and I can't get them in the box. So if you can address that, and also where to get Sharps containers, and if the city gives them away.
Yes. So yeah, the Aurora, we just recently replaced the box on 89th and Aurora because of all the jam ups. It was just because people put too many things at one time before they shut it, and it just kind of gets jammed in the throat there. And so you can always use the Find It, Fix It or the hotline to just call that in, and then I just come and pop it out. It's not a big deal. We never lock them. They just sometimes get jammed up. And she had mentioned you could go to that specific site. Another thing you can do is, if, like you mentioned, you go around and pick up trash, the Adopt a Street program, you don't have to, say I am doing this street every Monday all the time, blah, blah, blah. But if you want to sign up with Jenny Frankel, she will give you grabbers and needle boxes and trash bags and everything that you want to do if you just want to clean up your block one time. It doesn't have to be all the time. They have a lot of supplies, and they would love to hand them out to have people cleaning up in their neighborhood. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a commitment. It can, or you can just do it one time, get your family together and do it for a weekend. Not a big deal, but they give all those supplies away.
At Ballard, they don't even ask. You don't have to sign anything. If you want a grabber, they'll give it to you, and hopefully people will use it to help clean the city. And I wonder about the Sharps containers.
Yes. So through the Adopt a Street program, or I can, if you want to contact me, I can put my email in the chat, and I can drop off a small Sharps container for you.
Do they have those at the customer service center? Because I've never asked.
I am not sure. I know Jenny supplies things there. I don't know exactly what she leaves there. You could always try.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a great program. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate your time this evening. And in the interest of time, we're going to rush forward with our next speaker. And that's going to be Andy Gregory, Port of Seattle External Relations Manager. And Andy's going to talk about the bank building at Fisherman's Terminal, which is apparently slated for demolition. So, Andy, you are up next.
It's true. You stole my punchline.
Oh, sorry.
That was Everybody knew that coming into it. No, good evening, folks. Thanks for having me here today. As Paul said, my name's Andy. I'm on the community engagement team at the Port. You guys have probably met and worked with Rosie Courtney a number of times. She's my colleague. I support engagement with our maritime lines of business, other than cruise, which is, of course, her bailiwick. So I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about the bank building demo. I will share my screen here. Let's see here. I always say Zoom is my second language because we use Teams all the time. So I will do my best here, but hopefully you guys see that?
Yes.
Great. Awesome. We are coming up on the demolition of the bank building, which you have all probably seen on your way to or from Fisherman's Terminal. So tonight I'll talk a little bit about some info about the project, talk a little bit about the project schedule, and then go over any Q&A that folks might have. So project team couldn't make it here this evening, but I'm happy to take any questions that I can't answer back to them. So folks are probably aware of the building, which has not been occupied for many years, long before even I started at the Port 5 years ago. But this is it, right at the entrance to Fisherman's Terminal, right off of West Emerson Street. Building was built, I think, back in the 50s and served as a bank for a number of years. So during the project, we're going to be demolishing the existing building back to slab. There are some regulated materials, I think maybe some asbestos that will be abated during the process, some potential material salvage that will happen. And we'll be removing the landscaping and the curb that are adjacent to the building. So not out along the sidewalk that you can see here, but up against where the actual building is. And then capping the utilities, including water, sewer, and electric in preparation for use as a temporary utility for job shacks as we begin the other exciting project that's going to be taking place starting at the end of next year, which is the construction of the Maritime Innovation Center. So that's really the reason why this building is coming down now, is it's going to act as a staging ground during construction for the Maritime Innovation Center, which is the rebuilding of the Seattle Ship Supply building, one of the Port's oldest properties. So potential impacts that the neighborhoods will see should be fairly minimal. We will have, dump trucks, excavators, and other heavy equipment going from the property. I do have a slide coming up that shows the routes in and out of the property. Most of the construction equipment, once it's on site, will stay on site. Some dust and noise, as one could expect with the demolition of an old building like this, but we're really targeting both conducting it during the wet season, hopefully starting in October, as well as utilizing water trucks where possible to keep dust down. So construction hours will be about 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's really not going to impact parking or access to Fisherman's Terminal. So if you want to go have lunch at Chinook's or have a beer at the Highliner after work, you should be able to get in and out to do that, no problem. As I said, the businesses will be open the whole time. You can hopefully see here the sort of blue and yellow routes show the two access options in and out of the site, which is marked in red at the bottom here, right? So this is the building. And then we've got a north route that's up by the Northwest Dock by the Marine Supply Store, and then the south entrance, which is off of Emerson Street. But that's really where, the trucks will be coming and going to remove material once it's been demolished. So the contract for the construction company was awarded in August. They're going to start work in early October and hope to have everything wrapped up by the holidays at the end of December. And that's sort of it. So short and sweet. Happy to answer questions if folks have them, but that's it. We really wanted to just kind of come in front of you as some of our closest neighbors and let you know that this is coming up.
Thanks very much. There's a question in chat. What's going to replace that building now or in the future?
Yeah, it's a good question. The short answer is that we don't have a firm new construction plan. Some folks may have seen some of the video or the architectural renderings for the Gateway building that was conceived by our economic development team. That's kind of on hiatus right now, waiting to see kind of how it's going to pencil out in terms of return on investment. And we're really honestly focused mostly on the Maritime Innovation Center, which the commission did just authorize final construction authorization, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so that's moving forward full steam. And this site is going to serve, like I said, as a staging area for materials as we move into construction on that. And that's a really cool and complicated project, right? So they're picking up the building and moving it and shoring it up and then bringing it up to Living Building Challenge standards. So it's going to be really exciting to see that happen. And it's going to function as an innovation hub for maritime startup businesses.
Great. That'll be exciting, and we're looking forward to that. So thank you for this, and we'll look forward to seeing you or somebody from the port again as construction gets going on the innovation project, because that'll be a real positive there.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. And, that's going to be really, like I said, taking place next year, and happy to get folks out for tours and stuff when that's open and available. So, because I know everybody's been hearing about it for a long time, and it's exciting to see it finally come to fruition.
thanks again. Thanks for coming this evening.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll stop sharing, and everybody have a nice night.
Thank you. You too. Okay. So we're going to jump into our regular business meeting now, and we have a couple of things that we need to vote on, and I would like to go ahead and do those things now so that we can get that out of the way. And if people need to move on, I know that somebody's joining us from a training session, so I want to respect their time too. So I'm going to go off of the agenda order right now. One of the things that I wanted to ask for approval on, have the board, this is for board members only, is to vote on the letter that was sent regarding Memorial Stadium and the Memorial Wall. And many of you probably are pretty familiar with that project. There was a request made for a historic designation for both the stadium and the wall. And the recommendation by a number of agencies, but including the Seattle Center and folks in that area, were that the stadium should not be designated as a historic building. The memorial wall should have that historic designation. I did learn after we had written our letter supporting the historic designation for the wall, but not the stadium, that apparently what happens in the process now is that the historical preservation board will vote on the site as a whole, but then they can carve out certain items. So we'll have to see how it develops and how that moves forward. The executive committee made the decision to send that letter in support of the position, and I'd like to have the board vote on that. So with that, I'm just going to simply ask for a board vote in the easy way. Are there any board members who are abstaining? Don, you're abstaining. Okay. And any board members who are voting no? Okay, so everyone else is a yes. Thank you very much. So I don't know that our letter will be persuasive beyond what other organizations are doing, but at least we were able to help respond to that. So thank you. The next item on the agenda is the resolution that all the board members should have received. Since we have a really fine roster of candidates for the election this year, and we had the opportunity to seat some people ahead of that election, I thought that we would take advantage of that. So the resolution is asking for approval to seat 2 people to fill unoccupied seats right now, And those would be for a term basically of 1 year, because next year they would run for election in that typical cycle. And the two individuals are Marcus White, who you probably know from our past meetings, and then Samuel Hilbert, which I think Samuel, wave your hand, and Marcus, wave your hand so people see who you are. You should have received their letters of interest because they were interested in running for the board. I thought each of them brought a particularly unique perspective to the council, and that's Marcus has been involved for the last year and has been active on the Public Safety Committee. And Samuel is bringing an element to the council that we have not had, which is a representative of our Queen Anne business community, because Samuel owns Aluel Cellars, which we should all go and drink wine. So in any event, is there any discussion for this before we move forward with the request to vote? Don, go ahead.
Oh, I just second the motion.
Oh, okay, great. Any questions? Okay. Sharon, you have a hand raised. You're on mute, sorry.
Sorry.
That's
Does
okay.
that mean that we will still have 11 vacancies for our election?
We will
on
have
the
11
20th?
vacancies and we have 11 candidates. So this is sort of a bonus.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this will not affect the election
No,
yet. There'll
no,
still be 11 positions.
that's right. Yeah.
Thank you.
So yes, because we had empty seats from last election when we didn't have very many candidates running. So, okay, so I'm going to use the same method. Are there any abstentions from the board? And are there any no's? So it's carried unanimously, and thank you very much. Welcome, Marcus and Samuel to the board. Yay. So anyway, so great. Now you can start to get involved in all of the fun activities that we're engaged in. So, okay, that was easy, and thank you for making it so. I think moving right along, let's talk about our general business. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from last month? Or I'm sorry, no, that would be from 2 months ago, and I think I failed to send them out. So we may have to do that next month. So let's skip that. Ben, do you have a treasurer's report?
I do.
Okay, great. We can't hear you very well.
Okay, since it has been 2 months, the current general account balance is $2,430.05. And the appeals account is $1,426.45.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving right along now, I know that we have some committee chairs here. I'm going to talk about the, really briefly, the board election will be, our annual meeting will be on September 20th at 7 p.m. by Zoom, just like this. That is when I don't believe that we have any other business to conduct at that meeting, so we'll go right into the presentations by those people who are running for the Board of Trustees, and that'll be followed by voting. And for those of you who've participated in that before, we'll use an electronic voting link, and people can vote for up to 11 candidates. You don't have to vote for 11, but you certainly can. And the results will be announced at that meeting, and that'll be the conclusion of that meeting. So it'll be reasonably short compared to some of the others where we have a lot of business to take care of. So that's September 20th. It's a Wednesday, and it's at 7 o'clock by Zoom. If you haven't signed up and want to attend that meeting, please do, because you will need to have the Zoom link to be there and vote. The candidates have to be there, and you have to be there in order to support the candidates. So, and very quickly, in addition, Beth is away this evening. She's been working on the municipal elections along with some other folks who also are not here. But we have two candidates forums that we are doing, and Uptown Alliance agreed to join us in that effort. So this will be a co-sponsored, both will be co-sponsored events. The District 4 election for King County Council will actually be on October 4th, which is normally the date for our board meeting. We'll come back to that in a minute, but it was a date that worked for both candidates. And as you might realize, there are a lot of candidate forums going on. So getting them nailed down was a difficult task. District 7 for the city council, that candidate forum will be the following week on Thursday, the 12th. Again, both are virtual meetings by Zoom, and they will be at 7 o'clock. I believe Tyler's going to moderate the city council candidates forum, and I don't know that there's been a moderator selected for the King County Council forum yet. So more to come on that, but that's the information that we have right now. There are signups available to attend that meeting. You will have to register to attend, of course. And with that, we have Denny, who is next on the list of committee members. And other than just being a little sad with Denny that he's not going to run for the board, I'm going to let him talk about the LRC committee, what they're doing.
Hi, everybody. I'm a little sad too, because I had to think and went back and forth for 3 weeks. And at the last minute, I decided that I would step away from the board, but I really plan on still being involved. And if I find something that's real exciting in any place that the board's doing, whether it be, traffic, whatever, land use stuff, I still want to be involved. So you probably still have to put up with me once in a while.
We'll welcome that. Thank you.
And since we took last month off, just like the board did, I don't really have anything to report.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. There are just 1 minute, Sharon. There are two projects coming up that as we move forward and when we have after the election and when we have our election for officers and then ultimately committee chairs when the committees meet. There are two construction projects that are coming up. One is a little bit out there, and it's some buildings, hotels, and offices that are planned for the area along the Ship Canal. And there's another that is completely escaping my mind right now. But anyway, so those will be items that will be on the agenda for whoever wants to take on some land use review oversight. So,
Paula,
yeah.
I'll talk to you later more in detail, but just so everybody knows, I'm happy to step in or help, and I want this to be a somewhat smooth transition. And I don't even know if you know this, Paula, but the co-chair of LRC, I'm going to be meeting with her next Tuesday, and I'm sure that some of those details will work out.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely talk more about that. And thank you for doing it. And Sharon, do you have a
Well,
question or comment?
that's what I was going to tell people about, were the two hotels that have been proposed for 6th and Nickerson area.
Right.
And there is a variance that they're requesting for height. I
Okay.
believe, I'm not sure exactly, but I believe they want to build to at least 65 feet, and I think it's a 45-foot zone. We need to explore that further. There is some question about whether that is part of the university's real estate arm that is doing that. At the last,
Sharon, it's not.
well,
It's not
we'll have
directly,
to talk
but
more about it. But anyway, that is on the horizon, and
Thank
it's going
you.
to make an impact at the
yeah.
6th and Nickerson intersection. So
And I'm
that's
sure that that'll all get into the LRC committee when that project, gets fleshed out a little more. And
going to be a big one.
I wish I could remember what the other project was, but I don't, so it doesn't matter. And Don, you've been hiking the United States this summer. So what's happening with parks?
Well, we're going to expand Seattle, both out of state and internationally.
Okay,
Uh,
excellent.
I think it's the way to go. Yeah. But no, I've been exploring other parks and actually other cities with their parks. It's been a lot of fun. And but really our Parks Committee is still sort of waiting for word on the off-leash areas. They seem to be dragging their feet. No surprise. We don't have word yet on Smith Cove Park of what they're doing. And of course, I missed the last meeting at the community center, but it does seem like we're inching forward, and there's the parks is staying in contact with both the advisory board and with the Queen Anne Community Council. So we've got some things going, and always happy to talk to people about parks, try to answer their questions. They're not parks I find is not as easy to work with as they used to be. It's very difficult finding who to talk to. Will they give you an answer? It's just, it's not, and I've talked to some other people throughout the city who kind of do the same thing that I'm doing, and they agree. It's just been a little more,
Yeah.
a little more challenging. So, but we shall forge forward, and always happy to help people out and talk about parks.
That's great. Thank you. I did attend the meeting last month or whenever it was on the community center, and things are actually moving along fairly smoothly. I believe that there were a couple of options kicked around, and I think that late October, early November is when they're looking at holding a public meeting with, some options and stuff like that for people to look at. And I don't know what the format of that meeting will look like, but it'll be something where there'll be some presentations of the proposed design ideas, and then people get to provide input on that. So it'll start to be really fleshed out soon. And I know we have a meeting coming up this month, and I don't know if I'm in town, but anyway, so.
Just real quick, did they mention if there would be another, sometimes parks will do this and only try to get away with this being their public meeting. And did it sound like this is just a very beginning step, and that they're going to bring it forward again a couple of more times type thing?
Well, this is kind of the high level concept step. I don't think this is the one where everything is fleshed out completely, but to get ideas from people about, how they like the open space concept or that sort of thing. So they're certainly not down to the nitty gritty details yet, but at least it'll be the initial kind of kickoff. So I think it looks like things are still on tap, though, to have construction start in late 25 or early 26. So that's coming up pretty soon. And of course, a lot of things are being discussed around programming preferences and programming needs and that sort of thing too. So anyway, thank you, Don, for that. I have not heard anything on off leash or turf projects or anything, but I tried to take the month of August off too. That didn't work very well. So is there, I have, Jasmine, you're here. Do you have anything on transportation? I do have a little update on our Qacc crossing, so I'll let you speak first. So go ahead, Jasmine, if you have anything.
I don't have anything new. Jessica and I will be chatting soon about future planning for the transportation committee and what comes next after this term or this election and whatnot. But that's TBD, so I'll pass it to you for
Okay.
Qacc.
Well, thank you. So yeah, Qacc crossing. Brian Doherty with SDOT went on vacation and didn't notify me that they were going to be doing the work. And somebody happened to notice that, oh, we have a new floating curb bulb at 7th West and McGraw. And so it's there. And I actually understand that the crossing sign on that north side was in fact installed on the curb bulb, so it's not way back on the normal sidewalk. So that's a real bonus. There's another sign that is having to be made, Brian said in his email. So I don't know what that's all about, but there will be one more sign put up. And so Michael Kraft will be doing some photography work to document the new installation, and we are getting ready to plan a celebration event sometime in probably late September, early October, whenever we can shoehorn it into everybody's busy schedules. So stay tuned for that. I'm hoping there's cake and ice cream at least, and we'll have some things for the kids to do too. But at least that's there, and hopefully it was a safer crossing today for all the kids returning to school. So that's what I know about transportation.
Paul,
Anything else?
I jumped in a little bit too fast. It's
Yeah.
Denny.
Yeah.
I did notice today, just since we're on that subject, and I don't know if maybe this pushed it over the line to help or not, but there are now stop signs at the crosswalk to the front doors of the school on the west side. You have to stop there now.
Oh, on 7th West? Wow, that's great. That's
I
new.
wasn't sure if
Yeah.
that- I wasn't on that committee. I don't know if that was part of the push, but anyway, they just went up today, yesterday, probably.
It was not. That sounds like we got a freebie somehow. Yay.
So okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
something that I don't think was previously allowed, but so that's why we didn't push for it, but I'm glad it snuck through.
Yeah. Well, maybe they had some extra dollars left over from our grant money or something, and they just threw in a couple of stop signs. We'll take
Along
them.
along those lines, there's also new stop signs over there by the pool and the community center that just went in this week.
Yes. And I was contacted by someone who lives along there and had I don't want to say concerns. I don't know whether, I think these may have been behind the school building and behind the community center that they were talking about. I'm not sure. It was just an email, and I put them in touch with someone at SDOT because they had taken away quite a bit of on-street parking that they didn't think seemed necessary. So that's just one thing. It may bubble up again if they aren't able to get some satisfactory answers or something. But I haven't been over to look and see. So thank you, Ben.
Yeah, I think you'll notice it tomorrow at the farmer's market.
Yeah. Or
all right.
the 21st.
Oh, yeah.
Don't-
Farmer's market's tomorrow, though. Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Our
yeah, the
volunteer
regular
group.
farmer's market. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let's see, anything else? I actually think that just takes us to a couple of announcements. So, we are at the farmer's market on the 21st. Some of you have signed up to fill a time slot there and enjoy the fun and meet the kids. I have a whole slew of giveaways for kids, and if we can get the kids to come over, they'll drag their parents. So that's kind of always fun. I also guess we need to talk briefly. I did mention that the District 4 King County Council Forum will be on the 4th of October, which is our normal meeting date. So I have proposed that we move that meeting to Wednesday, the 11th, which is a week later. Is that agreeable to everybody? I don't have a better choice. We could move it to yet another week out, but that seemed to push us awfully close to the November meeting. So does the 11th work for everybody? It's just literally 1 week later than our normal meeting. Do you hear any problems? Dawn's good, Carolyn's good, Sharon's nodding her head. Okay. Well, hopefully that'll work. And I changed the sign up so people who are signed up for our board meetings will know, and new people won't be confused. So thank you for that. And I think that's all I have. Is there anything else that anyone has to bring up? We've crammed a lot into an hour, so thank you for your participation. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. hopefully I will see everyone, and including those folks who may not be here this evening, at the annual meeting on the 20th, and come with your voting hats on and get ready to vote in some new folks. And welcome again, Marcus and Samuel. We're really excited to have you guys on board. Thank you. So, okay, thank you and good night.
Thanks, all.
Mhm.